Weaponized Bible, Unveiling a Historical Chronology. 2026, The Weaponization of the Bible and Religion in History. Weaponization, it's understood as a process that spans centuries, but, has seen an aggressive systematic escalation since 2014. This chronological timeline traces the evolution from state-church partnership to, the modern sacralization of war. Early state-church integration, the historical foundation from 988 to 1917. In 988, Prince Vladimir adopts Orthodox Christianity as the state religion, establishing a centuries-long fusion of orthodoxy, autocracy, and nationality. Then, in 1721, Peter the Great abolishes the Patriarchate and creates the Holy Synod, effectively making the Church a department of the state. Soviet repression and tactical revival, from 1917 to 1991. Between 1918 and the 1930s, the Bolsheviks violently suppressed the Church, seizing land and banning religious instruction. The Bible is even confiscated at borders to prevent what they called detrimental ideologies. In 1943, during World War II, Joseph Stalin revives the Russian Orthodox Church to mobilize patriotic support for the war effort, establishing a template for the Church as a, militaristic propaganda tool. After the fall of the Soviet Union, Russia began to reshape its religious and political landscape. In 1997, Russia passed a law on religious freedom that, clearly favored the Russian Orthodox Church. This move paved the way for even deeper collaboration between the Church and the government, especially in foreign policy. Fast forward to 2009, when Patriarch Kirill was enthroned. He immediately set about reintroducing military chaplains, sometimes called the Apostles of Violence, aiming to integrate faith more closely with the armed forces. By 2013, the Russian Orthodox Church threw its support behind laws banning so-called gay propaganda, framing Russia as the defender of what they called traditional biblical values, standing firm against what they described as Western decadence. The next phase saw a direct weaponization of religion and a push for territorial expansion. In 2014, during the invasion of Crimea, the idea of Ruski Mir, or the Russian world, was really elevated. The Russian Orthodox Church justified the annexation of Crimea by describing it as reclaiming a sacred land, one they considered absolutely central to Russian identity. Then, in 2022, came the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Let's walk through a brief timeline of key religious declarations and actions. In March 2022, Patriarch Kirill delivered a sermon suggesting that violating what he called God's law, especially in terms of LGBTQ+ rights, actually provided divine license for the war. By September 2022, Kirill promised remission of sins for soldiers who died in the line of duty, directly citing the Bible, specifically John 15:13, to justify military sacrifice. In March 2024, the Russian Orthodox Church officially declared the invasion a holy war against what it labeled Western Satanism. Then, in July 2024, Russian authorities in occupied Crimea demolished the last remaining independent Orthodox Church of Ukraine building, as part of a broader campaign to eradicate any faiths not aligned with Moscow. Finally, by October 2025, reports surfaced detailing the blessing of crosses engraved with Putin's initials, which, honestly, symbolized the final fusion of state authority and religious scripture. So, let's talk about the tactical use of the Bible in 2026. In current conflicts, the Russian state employs what's called biblical weaponization in three ways. The first is justification, framing aggression as a metaphysical battle between good and evil. Another method is repression, where independent Protestant or Catholic groups are labeled as American spies to justify their persecution in occupied zones. There's also something called moral exemption, which involves using theology to suppress anti-war sentiment among soldiers, basically convincing them that their actions are divinely sanctioned. Now, if we look back historically, weaponization of the Bible and other religious texts often follows a pretty familiar pattern. Scripture is selectively cherry-picked or reinterpreted to provide divine legitimacy for political, economic, or territorial expansion. And beyond Russia's specific trajectory, there are some key historical instances of this, including, for example, the justification of transatlantic slavery. The Bible was extensively used by slaveholders in the 18th and 19th centuries to defend race-based slavery as a divinely sanctioned institution. The so-called Curse of Ham interpreters twisted Genesis chapter 9 verse 25, Noah's curse on Ham's son, Canaan, to claim black people were biblically destined for perpetual servitude. Supporters of slavery frequently cited the Pauline epistles, especially Ephesians chapter 6 verse 5. Slaves, obey your earthly masters, to demand submission and discourage resistance. There were even institutional splits, like when the Southern Baptist Convention was founded in 1845, specifically as a pro-slavery split from Northern Baptists, who were beginning to oppose the practice on moral grounds. The Medieval Crusades, which spanned from 1095 to 1291, were a series of religious wars. Popes and monarchs transformed warfare into what they called a holy mission, or bellum sacrum, aiming to reclaim Jerusalem and halt Islamic expansion. Pope Urban II promised that participating in the crusade would substitute for all penance, offering full forgiveness for past sins, remission of sins in other words. Under the banner of the cross, knights were taught that military aggression was, oddly enough, an act of love for God and love for neighbor, since it was seen as protecting fellow Christians. In the 19th century, the idea of American manifest destiny really took hold. In 1845, the term itself was coined, capturing the belief that the United States had a divine mandate from God to expand across the North American continent. Settlers often saw themselves as the new Israel, viewing the land as a sort of new promised land. This perspective was used to justify the displacement and, well, the genocide of Native American peoples, who were labeled as heathens, all seen as a biblical necessity, much like the conquest of Canaan. Expansion in this narrative wasn't just political imperialism. Instead, it was framed as fulfilling a destiny allotted by providence for the development of millions. During the scramble for Africa and the colonization of Asia, European powers, often invoked the Great Commission, the mandate to spread Christianity, as a kind of cover for extracting resources. The so-called civilizing mission was used by colonial authorities in places like the Congo under King Leopold II, and in India, framing their dominance as a Christian duty to civilize non-Christian populations. Spanish conquistadors in the Americas, for example, used a legal religious document called the Requerimiento to demand the immediate conversion of indigenous peoples. If they refused, this was then taken as a divine license for just war and even enslavement. In the 20th century, Imperial Japan, though mainly Shinto and Buddhist, actually weaponized these faiths during the Second World War to portray Japan as a divine land. The war effort was described as a crusade to protect Asia from Western colonialism and to establish, supposedly, a superior moral order. Fallen soldiers were glorified as kami, or divine spirits, and terms like kamikaze, meaning divine wind, were used to inspire absolute loyalty and self-sacrifice among the people. Thanks for watching.